Do you have any idea how bold these pricks must be to tell us that we're dropping the ball while they know that their military capacity is at its lowest since the early 1800s? That brings us to President Trump and what he has been doing. He's finally gotten Europe to get off of its ass and start footing the bill for their own defense. Mm-hmm. Start footing the bill for their own problems. You know what my problem is with this? I don't like Putin, okay? KGB, you're talking about basically a man who has raped his country of its resources, one of the wealthiest men in the world. It's all ill-gotten gain, okay? What I hate about Zelensky is when he does his little tour, like we just saw on CNN this morning, where he's like, we will not accept any of the Russian terms. Really? Okay. What if we weren't paying for your defense? You'd accept all Russian terms immediately. So the rest of the world gets on their high horse. We have socialized healthcare. We have free internet. It's a human right. Really? Before we get to defending the entire free world, though I use that term loosely, looking at you, Europe, how about just being able to protect yourself? How about just starting to spend the portion of NATO that you are contractually obligated to spend as a portion of your GDP? By the way, a great many deal of back payments in there. So when everyone says Donald Trump is alienating us from our allies, well, hold on a second. If you make a deal with your friend, let's say that you're going to go halvesies on a boat or a 4x4, let's call it some recreational vehicle. You pay the entirety. This person still uses it every other weekend, and they never pay a dime. Is that a good friend?
And they complain to you about leaving it with no gas.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what, dude?
Look, I don't want to be a stickler, but the Polaris it's very embarrassing when I was in the woods trail and I didn't have the gas. So, I guess we're both making sacrifices. No, only we are making sacrifices.
You were supposed to clean the boat?
Yes.
You didn't
After you use it, but okay.
I mean, I get it. It's a pontoon. It's more of a party boat. But still, I don't want to be in my own field. So this morning, top U.S. and Russian diplomats, and I just laid the stage for you, they started talks in Saudi Arabia, of all places, about ending the war between Russia and Ukraine. There's Rubio, most improved player.
Yeah.
And of course, the Europeans are mad that they were left out of the discussions, and they rightfully should have been left out of the discussions because they suck. Now, I don't know what you're saying. That's childish. Sure. You can read all the references, every single show. We provide them. I think it's the only show on earth that does it. But you know what? Europe sucks. It's a crappy... I know. Which European country? Yes.
All of them.
Even...
Yes. Go on the map. EU. Point. Yes. Everyone. Europe needs to start being a man. Let's put it that way. So the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the EU leader Ursula von der Leyen, I hope I'm saying this right.
That's a cool name.
They both finally signaled that Europe would need to spend more on defense. Hey! Wow. It's almost like when you actually have teeth in your threats, people start doing what they are already contractually obligated to do.
When was this, 1946?
Stop. It's not just NATO. They don't pay enough to defend their own countries.
Exactly.
It's not that they're just not spending enough to comply with this NATO thing. It's like if somebody wanted to take you over, they could.
Well, and you know what? Very, very clear, as always, was Poland, because Poland doesn't take any crap.
No, they don't.
Like, oh, Islamic migrants? Bye. They don't care. So the Prime Minister, actually, his name is Donald Tusk, so he's in good company, first name. Sounds he wrote on X.
Not a conservative, by the way.
No, but he wrote, if we Europeans fail to spend big on defense now, we will be forced to spend 10 times more if we don't prevent, I don't know if this is Polish, I can't do a Polish accent.
Close enough.
I don't know.
If we don't prevent a wider war. As the Polish PM, I'm entitled to say it loud and clear, since Poland already spends almost 5% of its GDP on defense. Here's the thing. Poland is basically the only nation that has done it consistently outside of the United States. This guy's not a conservative, but he's pointing out what we all know. He's saying, well, yeah, Donald Trump is saying that the rest of you should spend, and you guys use us. You guys use us as this beacon of hope, where you say, what if Putin marches on through Poland, but we're spending all the money in the defense, and where are you guys, NATO? You're not doing anything. We're an actual NATO nation.
Yeah. What was Ukraine spending? Poland's like, yes, what if he marches straight through Poland?
Yes.
We should probably be ready for this.
Yes, I am like the ant who prepared for winter, and you are pussies.
Different stories.
The grasshoppers come. It's the one guy from Spin City with the funny voice, Cousin Andy. You will understand the whole Aesop fable. President Trump has been demanding this, and he has been condemned for it. And we have been demanding this. Gosh, I've been doing this since 2009, but certainly since his first term.
But 23 of the 28 member nations are still not paying what they should be paying and what they are supposed to be paying for their defense. This is not fair to the people and taxpayers of the United States. And many of these nations owe massive amounts of money from past years and not paying in those past years. Over the last 8 years, the United States spent more on defense than all other NATO countries combined.
That's a huge
If all NATO members had spent just 2%
Feels like she's in a
of
bad
their
shampoo
GDP
commercial.
on defense last year, we
Look at
would have
France
had another
laughing.
$119 billion for our collective defense and for the financing of additional NATO reserves.
And remember, everyone was saying, how could they do this to our allies? We're being embarrassed on the world stage. Well, now they're saying, okay, maybe we should start spending more. And according to one NATO diplomat, even conscription is back in this. For those of you who don't know, that means mandatory military service. Oof. This was written, actually, I think we have the reference, you can bring it up. It said, for the first time since I've worked here, allies are talking about how this could work. Should have been working on it all along. How we lower barriers to jobs and best practices for recruitment, including conscription. Here's something you need to know. Jeez. While the rest of the world has been standing there with their hand out, demanding that America foot the bill while telling us what we should do as we foot the bill, Russia, Ukraine, it's our moral obligation. European militaries have actually lost numbers since Russia invaded Ukraine. The British Army is at its smallest since the Napoleonic Wars.
Good golly.
That goes back to 1815. They were dealing with a really short guy.
Big temper.
Yes.
Yes, recently I saw, I think we covered on the show where there's a poll that said only 11% of British people would defend Great Britain.
They're not willing to. They're not willing to. They're absolutely spineless. And by the way, contrast that with the U.S. Army has had its best recruiting month in 15 years.
Yeah.
So it's our job to provide security for the world. And we'll get to charity in a second because the United States military is a global charity and it has been taken advantage of. While their numbers are shrinking, do you have any idea how bold these pricks must be to tell us that we're dropping the ball while they know that their military capacity is at its lowest since the early 1800s?
Wouldn't it be the time, if this really is the be-all, end-all war for Europe and he's going to march through and go on to Poland and go everywhere else, wouldn't this be the time to get more people into your military services and go, hey, there's a threat at our door again. We've got to do this. Isn't that what we've been told, though?
Yeah.
But Putin's not going to stop with Ukraine. Of course not. He's going to keep marching into Europe. That's what we've been told.
It's really hard to get the kind of young men to enlist into service to protect pridefully their nation when you've told them that they are villains and they have nothing to be proud of. What are they fighting for? Hey, if I'm a Brit right now or German and I see the gang rapes going on, I see the streets, I see Tommy Robinson being held indefinitely without bail, right, in solitary confinement. What am I proud of? I've been told that we should apologize, that we should be putting the stocks on the international stage. Why would I join the military to fight for that? Why would I want to join to fight for the bad guys?
Sounds like a good time to leave your wife and daughters at home.
That's what it sounds like.
Go to war.
Yeah. So the Prime Minister there, Keir Starmer, who really fancies himself Churchill, he's not, declared that Britain had to step up to lead in this really just off-putting, feminized, cringy video.
In this moment, we have to recognise the new era that we are in, not cling hopelessly to the comforts of the past. It's time for us to take responsibility for our security, for our continent. And I've been clear today, Britain will take a leading responsibility.
Well, now.
Always have.
You always have?
Because Ukraine must have a secure future. Europe must have a secure future. Britain must have a secure future. And democratic values must prevail.
He really thinks he's Churchill. He's more Neville Chamberpot
He recorded that audio in a chamber pot.
Yeah, that's the thing you poop in, right?
It's a toilet.
In your room.
Saying he's a toilet.
It's convenient.
He also said that Britain would send troops to Ukraine as part of a peacekeeping force.
So what you're saying is he's going to send troops there to maybe fight and get a peace? No. He's not going to actually send troops to fight. Okay, so maybe he's going to send troops like in the Donbass region, put them on the border so that he can make sure Ukraine stays on their end. And Russia stays there. No. He's going to send them hundreds of miles to the west of where they would actually be needed. They probably cut off maybe an hour of flight time from the frickin' trip from London to get to Ukraine if something happened. Yes. That is a pansy move saying, we're ready to send troops.
Yes, well, what you fail to understand, as you see, is we're a nation entirely made of pussies. And so we're just taking baby steps. We're putting them in the general area without actually fighting.
You know what no successful country in the history of the world has ever said after X number of 100 years in existence? It is finally our time to take personal responsibility for our security. You usually just cease to exist before you get to that point where, hey, maybe we should secure ourselves.
And by the way, secure yourselves, you mean finally start dealing with the Islamic migrants, the jihads that are taking place in record numbers, the mass stabbings? Oh, no, wait. You mean send peacekeeping forces to an area where there largely isn't conflict because Ukraine matters more than your own people. The Ukrainians are allowed to preserve and protect their people and their identity, but not the people of Britain. And by the way, the same people who believed that you should be British, that Britain was for Brits, the Brexit people, you browbeat, you guilted, you lambasted, you said we're racist, and you wonder why your country doesn't work. Hey, how's that free internet working out? How's that socialized healthcare? You're welcome from the American military. By the way, the National Security Advisor last week, Mike Waltz, said that Europe should take this leading role in Ukraine security guarantees. This is a direct result of an administration coming in saying, hey, guess what? We're not going to be footing the bill anymore. You guys have to step up. Turns out, you just need to start with that posture. This should tell you something. No one else has. Why have these nations not paid their portion of NATO that they are contractually obligated to pay? Why have these nations by default assumed it's the United States' job to protect the rest of the free world while they know that they are dragging their feet? Because this is the first time in our lifetime, and that includes Barack Obama, Joe Biden, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, where we have a leader saying, hey, this isn't fair. You guys aren't being good allies. You guys aren't being good friends. You're not you're not upholding your end of the bargain. It just required someone to stand up and say what many Americans know and believe. That's why President Trump has a mandate of the masses, not just because of an electoral college landslide, arguably. By the way, we intercepted, this is exclusive, a leaked conference call between these European nations tipping their hand a bit as to their plans.
All right, is everyone on the line? Oui, France is here. Frickin' the Deutschland! All right, gents, what are we going to do about these dodgy Russians? Donc we should start by increases the defense spending. Brilliant. I propose we provide some of our own troops to fight alongside the noble Ukrainians. Oui. Right. Problem is we don't quite have enough young men to fight. Maybe we make incentive for them with the monies or the cigarette? Yes, that might work. Plus the reward of honor and a sense of European patriotism. What if we just make them do it? Well, I suppose conscription is an option. And they will be united and mighty. Yes, well, I suppose. And they will be loyal? Well, naturally. And they will be ruthless. Oui. And what about the costume? They will have scary black uniforms. All black. With red patch on the side that says EU. Well, that sounds uncomfortably familiar. And they will be super soldiers. The SS for short. Wahoo! And a new Europe will be reborn. Who the hell was that? It's me, Italia. I brought him with me.
Well, I still always have my issues with Germany. Yeah. As someone who studied history.
I think they'll get Hugo Boss to make those scary.
Yes, they will. They will.
Nice. Have some nice Mercedes tanks.
The point here is everything that the media and Europe have been bitching about regarding Donald Trump, and by the way, what is fundamentally the worldview of conservative Americans, it's working. We now have a light that is shining down upon Europe and their complete abdication of their responsibilities, then obfuscating the fact that they have not been fulfilling their responsibilities. For the first time in our lifetime, hey, Europe, the free ride is over. The free ride is over. You are basically the international stage's welfare queen, and we're done with it. We also have some breaking clips, I guess, right now of
so we have
Rubio.
Marco Rubio talking at the negotiations, crediting Donald Trump for getting them started, and then one more after that.
All right.
3.5 years while this conflict has raged, or 3 years while it's raged, no one else has been able to bring something together like what we saw today, because Donald Trump is the only leader in the world that can. So no one is being sidelined here, but President Trump is in a position that he campaigned on to initiate a process that could bring about an end to this conflict. And from that could emerge some very positive things for the United States, for Europe, for Ukraine, for the world. But first it begins by the end of this conflict. And so the only thing President Trump's trying to do is bring about peace. It's what he campaigned on. It's something the world should be thanking President Trump for doing. He's been able to achieve what for 2.5 years, no one else has been able to achieve, which is to begin this process, a serious process. Obviously, a lot of work remains before we have a result.
So that's fantastic. He's saying it out like, hey, we're starting a peace process. Did Joe Biden do that? Was he able to get that done? No. And here's Lavrov, the head, I guess, Russian negotiator, essentially.
Sorry, I'm distracted because there's a transgender service members go to court over Trump's new ban.
Yeah, good luck.
Okay, all right, good.
I don't care.
Brittle bones, they won't make it. All right.
So this is, I guess, the response from Lavrov saying it was the negotiations have so far or were a success.
Oh, good.
Russia's foreign minister.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, to prevent any attempts to disrupt this resumption of relationships between Russia and the US, we need to continue. And after this meeting, I can say that it's been quite a success. The conceptual approach to further steps, it was laid down by the presidents during their phone call, and we felt great attitude and willingness of our American counterparts to push this forward actively, and we're going to do the same.
Okay, good. By the way, you could ski down that man's face. Keep watching. Click. Keep watching. Click. Keep watching. Click the... Keep watching. Click. Keep watching. Click. Keep watching.